Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rundown. We talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And today is Throat Punch Thursday.
Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Who's ready?
It's Throat Punch Thursday, bitch.
Gotta love that. Throat Punch Thursday, folks. We very much appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program and encouraging your friends to do the same. Unfortunately, Mr. Piwowarski, Mr. P, Mikey P, is not going to be with us today. Unfortunately, he had, he's out there earning that living, folks. So I get it. But guess what? I got you. You got me. Hey, and we got the, we got the social media. We got the fingers. So do me a favor. If you got a comment, please go ahead. If you're watching us live, that's 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. Go ahead. Leave us a comment. And if I can get to it, I will make sure to read it on air. That's usually, you'll find us, by the way, if you're watching us live, it's usually on Facebook, on Rumble, on YouTube. Those are the best places to find us live. But you can also listen afterwards, wherever you get your podcast, or you can actually also watch us, right? Watch us at all of the previous locations where you'll find the video, but you can also watch it at Spotify. I kind of like Spotify because literally you can watch and or listen, meaning let's say you start off, you're watching it on your phone or you're watching it on here, and then you decide on your computer and you decide, oh man, I got to run an errand. You don't have to stop the program. You literally just pause it, get in the car, and boom, now you're listening to the podcast audio version of it. It is that simple. In any case, however you partake, all we care about is that you partake and that you encourage your friends to do the same. So, like, share, subscribe, and encourage your friends to do the same. Next up, we've got, before we get into today's program, we got to go ahead and give a quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start off with Hitman Industries. That's Hitman Industries. If you are looking to do a rebuild if you're looking to do a rebarrel for your rifle, or you're looking to do a brand new build, they have rifle and pistol length barrels available for you right now. Just go there, check them out, hitmanindustries.net. If you're a first responder, never bought from them before, guess what? You get a discount. So check them out today. Once again, hitmanindustries.net. Then we've got the California Republican Assembly. This is the group that was referred to by Ronald Reagan as the conscience of the Republican Party. They're working to help elect conservatives at all levels within government, within the state of California, from school board all the way up to President of the United States. They got a convention coming up here. It's taking place in April. If you want to learn more about that or just more about the organization, visit them at cragop.org. It's cragop.org. Check them out today. And then we've also got Hog Holsters. If you're looking for a holster, this is the place to go. They've got concealed carry. They've got tactical holsters. They've got inside the waistband, outside the waistband. Whatever setup you're looking for, trust me, they got you. Okay, just go to hogholsters.com. Make sure you use discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces, and get your hog holster today. And then finally, the ultimate place to get your tactical gear is uscombatgear.com. They have all things tactical but the gun. That means indoor gear, outdoor gear. That means cold weather, warm weather. That means backpacks, hats, eyes, whatever you're looking for. Trust me, they got it. Fast shipping, great prices, and excellent service. Trust me. Check them out, uscombatgear.com. All right, let's go ahead and get into today's topic, and we're going to start off with Joe Biden decided to come out. Joe Biden came out, and he was doing an interview with Univision. Now, admittedly, Univision is basically an arm it's the Latino arm of the DNC. They do not represent true journalism or they do not represent objective journalism. Let us be clear, and I think you'll get that from a little bit of this interview, but. They asked the president, in your view, what is the greatest threat to democracy? And you're not going to be surprised by what he said.
President Biden is calling his predecessor the biggest threat to U.S. democracy. Take a listen to his latest warning about Donald Trump.
What, in your view, constitutes the primary threat to freedom and democracy at home?
Donald Trump. Seriously. Donald Trump uses phrases like he's going to eviscerate the Constitution, he's going to be a dictator on day one.
CBS News contributor and anchor for Televisa Univision, Enrique Acevedo, who spoke with the president, is with us now. Enrique, what news did President Biden make in the interview?
Well, we spoke on a wide-ranging list of issues, from his speech his State of the Union speech, where he talked about how freedom and democracy were under assault at home to the events of January 6th, but mainly about Latino voters. President Biden needs the support of Latinos, specifically in states like Arizona and Nevada, where we traveled with the president to see how Latino members of the Latino community were reacting to his message. There, President Biden talked about issues that are top priorities for Latinos. Of course, immigration, that's not necessarily the most important issue, but it has to do with identity, access to healthcare, preventive care, access to affordable housing. Like I said, wide-ranging issues. He also talked about, when we asked him about that State of the Union address, what specifically he thought was the main threat to freedom and democracy at home. And this is what he said.
The idea that he would sit in the office, and I'll show you before you leave, off the Oval Office, and watch for hours the attack on the Capitol and the destruction and the mayhem and the people who were killed, the police officers who died, and call them political heroes, call them patriots, and saying that if he gets elected, he's going to free them all.
So Donald Trump, that was his answer when we spoke about the main threats to freedom and democracy at home. We spoke about the border, how he's been criticized by Republicans for not doing enough to secure the border. This after his administration spent months negotiating a tough bipartisan bill that dramatically increased.
Okay, so let's break this down a number of different ways. First and foremost, you notice how the president's positions went completely unquestioned. And the worst part about it was that there were a number of things that were just factually incorrect. There is nowhere, ever is there a quote where where President Trump said he was going to eviscerate the Constitution. Absolutely, positively nowhere is that stated. And yet this journalist did nothing, absolutely nothing to challenge him on it. And guess what? The guy from CBS didn't even bother to ask, well, Donald Trump never said that, or where exactly. How about asking, when exactly did Donald Trump say he was going to eviscerate the Constitution? He can't say that because he never did. He never, ever said that. He got into talking about how people died during, how he just sat there and people watched. First of all, nobody was just sitting there and watching what happened. At least nobody in the White House. He talked about how he just sat there and how the police officers died. Hello. There was only one person on January 6th who died during the riot at the Capitol, and that was Ashley Babbitt, who was shot to death. She was a Trump supporter, unarmed Trump supporter, who was shot to death by a Capitol police officer. No officers died, yet he sat there and lied once again. The guy from Univision didn't say anything, didn't say, hey, well, no, that's not true. No officers actually died. Nobody except one person actually died. And guess what? The guy from CBS didn't question him and say, hey, well, but what about, that's not necessarily true. Did you ask him what about that? No, of course he didn't, because they are about perpetrating the lie. Then they get in and they start talking about the issues and the things about Latino voters. And the reality is, the reason why they're talking specifically about Latino voters, the reason why I did the interview with Univision is because guess what? A majority of Latino voters are voting for, or at least a majority of them do not approve of Joe Biden. A huge percentage, a greater percentage than has ever voted for a Republican, are planning on voting for Donald Trump. That's right. Donald Trump is beating Joe Biden in the polls when it comes to Latinos. And so he's trying to stop the bleeding. And so he talks about these issues, but then he gets into talking about the border. And then he says, well, but he negotiated a tough bipartisan. No, he did not negotiate a tough bipartisan proposal. One Republican was interested in this idea of, I don't know, not stopping people at the border, not securing the border, but facilitating the invasion of America. That's what they wanted to do. They didn't want to hire more people to work at the border so that they could stop people from illegally coming into the country. He wants to hire people so that they can process them faster, and he can start flying them into places like Florida and New York. That's what he wants to do. So no, that's not a tough bill. That's not a tough bill at all. But anyway, it was just amazing to me because he literally used every single he literally focused on the administration's talking points. That's what they were pushing. Even when he wasn't saying the president said, he was focusing on, he would still use the White House talking points. But what I found interesting is that this is a guy, now I want you to think about this. This is a guy who pushed vaccine requirements on an unproven vaccine, a vaccine that has not been proven to be safe, despite the fact that even if someone had natural immunity, he had nurses, police officers, firefighters. He had people in the military had them fired if they did not comply and take the vaccine. These were the policies that he was pushing. How democratic is that? No law was passed. He just simply said it and made them do it. Tried to use OSHA to make them do it. And if the courts hadn't stood up, well, let me clarify. Many people did lose their jobs. Many people did get fired. Now, legally, they're supposed to hire them back, but many of them don't want to go back now. He did that. Is that really democracy? How about making agreements, offering for sale leases, oil leases, right? Drilling leases, so that we can keep America energy independent, and then first day in office, pulling all of those leases, taking America from being net energy exporters to net energy importers, putting America at the whim of OPEC and other nations that hate us. That didn't pass Congress. He did that with a stroke of a pen. How democratic is that? How is that, or is that not a threat to democracy? Oh, how about this? How about the Supreme Court tells you that you do not have it within your authority to forgive student loan debt, to make the American taxpayer pay for people who decided that they wanted to go to college and get degrees in basket weaving, or get degrees in Chicano studies or black studies or sociology, and now all of a sudden they can't get jobs, right? They made the decision to go to college and take out loans, and now you and I, taxpayer, have to pay for it because, well, they feel like they've paid too much. Now, the Supreme Court said he couldn't do that. Then he went and he's been doing it anyway. Folks, he's disregarded the legislative process. He has ignored the judiciary. He has forced the military and law enforcement and first responders. He has forced them out of their jobs for not complying with his unconstitutional mandates. And yet somehow Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. We are literally a joke around the world because of the pullout of Afghanistan, because of how we handled that. Our southern border right now is being invaded. I mean, we're literally hundreds of thousands of people are coming across every month from all around the world, from friendly nations and from terrorist nations. We literally, our alphabet agencies, we'll call them, but our national security agencies are already talking about how big a threat we are now facing when it comes to domestic terrorism. When I say domestic terrorism, I say terrorism here in these United States, because we don't know what sort of terrorists we've allowed in through our southern border. But Donald Trump is a threat to democracy? Please. No, I'm not buying that one. I know you're not. I know you're not either. But just it just goes to show you how out of touch, how completely out of touch Joe Biden is, and that's the reason why, folks. I'm telling you right now, he's gonna lose. If I will always go back, and I still go back to the title of that book written by Hugh Hewitt. If it's not close, they can't cheat. Folks, I have a feeling this is not even going to be close. Right now, Donald Trump is winning in states that he's leading in states in the polls where he's never led. Even when he won in 2016, he did not lead in these states. But that is just how unpopular Joe Biden is, because he lies. And the worst part is he's not even a good liar. He tells lies that are clearly, obviously, you can fact check it. And he tells you, don't believe your lying eyes. Believe me, the babbling old man. Anyway, I think I've ranted enough. I think y'all get where I'm at on this. But by the way, this leads us to my next story. Once again, talking about ignoring the legislative process. If you want to pass universal background checks, there's a way to do it. And that way is by going through the legislative process, right? But that's not what President Biden has decided to do. He's decided he's going to circumvent the legislative process, and he's just going to start doing it. This was being reported by NPR. It says here, here's the new plan to boost background checks for guns bought at shows or online. The Justice Department announced a new rule Thursday that will require anyone who sells guns to run federal background checks, a process that could cut down on what's known as the gun show loophole. The rule expands the definition of what it means to be, quote, engaged in the business, end quote, of selling firearms. The clarification means that background checks are required for the sale of guns, not just at gun stores, but also for guns sold at flea markets, on social media, and at gun shows. Attorney General Merrick Garland said the new move will save lives. Quote, under this regulation, it will not matter if guns are sold on the internet, at a gun show, or at brick and mortar store. If you sell guns predominantly to earn a profit, you must be licensed and you must conduct background checks, Garland told reporters. The Justice Department said the new rule, which goes into effect 30 days after it is submitted, would affect roughly 23,000 unlicensed dealers. It has the potential to impact tens of thousands of gun sales each year. It also allows for better tracing of guns that are found at crime scenes, including mass shootings. Okay, let's just start with, this is all lies and bullshit. And I forgive my language, but I feel pretty comfortable saying it's all bullshit. First of all, understand that millions of firearms are sold every year. So we're talking about a very, very, very small percentage of in this case. Number two, when you talk about firearms that are sold, the quote unquote, the definition, it all depends on how many firearms, once again, you are selling. And for the most part, most of the people if you're selling a firearm at swap meets or things like that, these are not people who are, quote unquote, engaged in the business. And by the way, engaged in the business of selling firearms is something that is defined in law. They just are trying to create or expand a definition. This is not a clarification. This is an expansion. You are not allowed to expand a definition without going through the legislative process. This is a clear violation of separation of powers. This is what threats to democracy do. When you are a threat to democracy, you try to rewrite laws without actually going through the legislative process. Why do you have to go through the legislative process? Because it's the legislative branch of government that writes laws. Conjunction, junction. No, I'm sorry, wrong one. I'm sorry. I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. You remember that one, right? Yeah, that happens in the legislative process. But this president doesn't care about the Constitution, right? He wants to eviscerate the Constitution. If he can say Donald Trump wants to eviscerate the Constitution. I can definitely say that he wants to eviscerate the Constitution because he tries to do it every day. Okay, maybe every day is a stretch. Every other day? How many executive orders has he written? I can guarantee you a lot of them are, well, they're outside of the realm of what the executive branch is supposed to be able to do, because he doesn't care about the Constitution, right? He cares about controlling you. And the only parts of the Constitution that he cares about are the ones that he can use to beat you over the head with so that he can control you. That is Joe Biden. And the funny part is that people know this. People on the right know this. People on the left know this. Not everybody on the left, because some people, well, they're more than happy because they hate Donald Trump so much that they're okay with, the occasional violation of your constitutional rights. Not I. Anyway, moving right along, Interfaith Club was denied after a Pride Club was approved. Now, this is a report coming out of the Daily Mail. Let's get over to it here real quick. It says Girl 11 was barred from starting a faith club while classmates are allowed to set up a pride club. Washington schools at the center of another religious row after football coach was fired for praying with players. Okay. It says here, a Washington State school, once again, part of the West Coast wall of wokeness, a Washington State school is being accused of violating a fifth grader's First Amendment religious freedom protections by denying her request to establish an on-campus interfaith prayer club. An 11-year-old girl's application to start a prayer group to bring together students of different faith backgrounds to, quote, serve their community, end quote, was rejected by Creekside Elementary School in Samish, Washington. However, Creekside permits over a dozen other non-religious clubs to meet, including a pride club, which is a quote safe space for educating students and staff on LGBTQIA+ history and people, according to the school's website. Principal Amy Allison also allows a green team focused on making the schools more sustainable. Marimba Club, chess club, and student council, among other secular groups. Denying the formation of a religious student club while allowing other clubs violates the Constitution, Kayla Toney, Associate Counsel for First Liberty Institute, told the Daily Mail. The school district is also down the road from Boomerton, Washington, where Coach Joseph Kennedy won at the Supreme Court in 2022 over his unjust firing for leading on-field prayers with his high school football team. Which just goes to show you that evidently the leaders in this community, the people who keep getting elected, they seem to hate Christians. They seem to hate people of all faiths because, once again, this was an interfaith prayer organization. They seem to not like the First Amendment because they don't like people being able to exercise their free. To keep in mind, we always focus on this, shall not, right? Shall not, the Establishment Clause. Government shall not establish, shall respect no establishment of religion. But we always keep forgetting about, or at least no one talks about, the free exercise clause. And that's what we're talking about here is this student has a right to freely exercise. The state can't force students to pray. They can't force them to be a part of a faith, or they're not supposed to be able to force them to be part of a faith, but they have to allow them to exercise their faith, right? In the meantime, and let's just be clear, the LGBTQ, the whole social justice, the whether it is queer theory, whether it is trans theory, whether it is critical race theory, these are all religious ideologies. And I say that they are religious ideologies in that they require they basically take on all of the aspects of a religion. In other words, you can't question the precepts, right? You have to. If you are not willing to submit to the dogma, then you are ostracized and punished. And that's what they're doing in these schools. If you do not fall into the dogma of the critical race theory, of the diversity, equity, inclusion, if you do not fall into the environmental, the environmental dogma, if you do not, if you don't believe that climate change is coming man is causing it and it's going to destroy the world, and therefore you got to eat bugs, then you have violated the precepts of their social justice religion. And you, therefore, should be ostracized and punished. And that is their goal here. Now, I know that sounds kind of drastic if you've never watched this program before. I know it sounds kind of out there, but trust me, take the time to read. Take the time to read James Lindsay. There are tons of cynical theories is a great one. The Marxification of education is another one. Just take the time to read some books about what is going on, what they're doing, and don't just read them. Go back and read some of the books that are foundational. Read about critical theory. Read critical theory, by the way. Read critical race theory. Get to know and understand it from the people who created it, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Go and read books about the environmentalist movement and come to understand that it's not based in science. They pretend science, but it's pseudoscience, because science is about debate. It's about looking at data and information and recreating studies and yada, 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 discovery and knowledge, and they're not interested in discovery and knowledge. What they're interested in is you obeying. As long as you obey, well, then you're cool. And if you refuse to obey, well, then you are a heretic, and you must, like I said, you must be punished in their eyes. All right, that now brings us to Biden once again dazed and confused. Joe Biden has been we'll just say greatly mocked recently, because we had the Prime Minister of Japan came over to visit. And during the ceremony, let's just say that Biden was not at his best. And you can watch this clip here from C-SPAN. It'll give you an idea. He just starts stumbling along. He's like, follow man in hat. Follow man in hat. And then he's standing up there. So what's going on? He looks confused. Huh? What? Where am I? Where am I? Where's my pudding?
Guests, please rise if you are able for the conclusion of the ceremony and departure of the official party.
Did I leave now?
President, this concludes the ceremony.
Does that mean I can leave now? Where are we going? Okay. Anyway, it says here, Biden 81 and Kishida 66 greeted one another before shaking hands, members of both the U.S. and Japanese delegations at the South Lawn. Leaders then mounted the stage for the national anthem of both countries before reviewing the U.S. military honor guards. Ahead of the review, Biden and Kishida were greeted by a salute by military aid. The president began to raise his right hand and return the salute, then dropped it as the aide directed the two leaders where to stand. Once again, and this wasn't the worst of Biden's of Biden's being dazed and confused, but you can see clearly he's barely there. And keep in mind, sometimes he does an event. He doesn't even do events every day, and that's simply, once again, because he is deteriorating at a very, very fast rate. And he obviously looks dazed and confused. And that the worst part is, ladies and gentlemen, world leaders see this. And they know that America is, there's no one at the helm. Or there's someone at the helm, just most of us here in America don't know who it is. And once again, neither do they. All right, folks. Well, hey, that brings us now to our parting shots, brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just make sure to get your Hog Holster. Just go to hogholsters.com, use the discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces, and get your Hog Holster today. All right, our items today, our parting shots today, are going to be brought to you by the Babylon Bee. That was easy for me to say. This first one, as you may or may not have heard, O.J. Simpson has passed at the age of 76 from cancer today, and I know many of you out there may be sad. He was an NFL great, but be happy for him, because O.J. Simpson is excited. Because finally, God is going to tell him who the real killer was. Okay. Okay. All right. That was a good one. I like that one. And then, just so you know, so on his way, as he is going to be delivered to the funeral home, there was a hearse that was sent. And interestingly enough, they sent a special hearse for Mr. Simpson. It says here, police slowly escort white hearse containing O.J. Simpson. And for those of you who do not know, this hearse actually looks like a white Bronco. It's even got the Ford symbol up front. Okay. And then finally, and this last one is not related to the first two, but this is an interesting one. This also, once again, comes from the Babylon Bee. And this is about new quote, Biden diet sweeps nation. Pay the same amount of money, but eat 50% less food, because that's pretty much all you can afford. Life in Bidenomics. Sad but true, sad but true. All right, folks. Well, before we head out today, let's give another quick shout out to our sponsors. We've got Hitman Industries. You'll find them at hitmanindustries.net. Rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you today. Then you've got the California Republican Assembly. Be a part of California's future today. Join CRA. And then get your Hog Holster at hogholster.com. Use the discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces. Get your Hog Holster today. And then you can go and get all things tactical except the gun from uscombatgear.com. And with that, we're going to call it a show. We're going to call it a day, but not a week. We got one more day. We got Free for All Friday. So y'all take care. Y'all have fun. And we will be back mañana. Have a good time. Till then.